I currently track supplements as well as medication in app Guava Health. This is what now the reminder section looks like. I can set up multiple entries also for custom data, and then I can also set up reminders for the supplements as well as the medications I take. I can set the reminder to a certain time. So if I go into the settings, then we can see here that I can schedule it daily, once, and also the times. I currently have it set to the end of the day, since sometimes I only can manage to either track or ingest the supplements at the end of the day. Now, I already have basically ingested my morning stack, so the simpler thing compared to entering the exact time is to just say, okay, I try to track it as close in time as to the actual ingestion timestamp, and therefore I just click on ingested now or time to set now. I then still need to take another medication for pollen allergy in the evening, but this makes me sleepy, and so therefore I take it basically at the end of the normal day, right before sleep, and then I also have evening entry for additional custom data. In the meds taken section, I then can take a look at all the active meds I have been taking, but also all the past meds. I also can create groups. So for example, I created the supplements and drugs group, which I don't really use because I mostly track it with the reminders here. But this function of active and past seems to also be quite useful. So what I can do in here is, if I click on omega-3s, for example, I then have basically the schedule where I took it. I also have the past schedule, and I also can add past data. This then is used for correlations, which I will shortly look into. Now, this here also shows me a graph of taking it. For example, I used to take actually 6 capsules of omega-3s a day. This is or was the result of me taking the Huberman recommendation of 2 grams of EPA in a given day, but I changed this to 2 capsules, and I can see basically all the days at which I took them, but I also tracked it, and of course I only track if I'm entirely sure that I took it there. And so I, for example, here have 6 capsules. This is now an entry, or was an entry, into a different app. I tracked it with a habit tracker, but then I decided to put it all into here, because in the Insights tab now of this app, and I do have the premium version of this app, which does automatic correlations, I then can go into the medication section here, and then I scroll to omega-3s. So what does happen with omega-3s? These are now not causations, obviously, but just correlations. So this could be totally random, and it could be that there is some other third variable which is causing this, or that there are 2,000 other variables which contribute together to a correlation like this. But it seems to be the case that with omega-3s, and this is now just with omega-3s, so there are 2 different correlations. The first one is usually whether one took the medication, and the second one is the quantity of the medication. So what I now can see here is that my bedtime goes up by 68%. I don't know why, but this is the correlation. My heart rate variability goes also up by 24%. My deep sleep also goes up by 24%. My breathing rate seems to go down by 2%. My resting heart rate seems to go down by 2%. So some of the data I have from Garmin, some of the data I have from a Galaxy Watch. The sleep sometimes from the Garmin is not that reliable, so I obviously also have to look or take a look where the data is from for these automatic correlations. I also can see whether my body fat changes. So I, in the morning, stand daily on a Garmin Index S2, and then the body fat is basically transferred, the body fat data, as well as the body composition data with the weight, is transferred to Garmin Connect, which then is basically pulled into Guava Health. My daily steps seem to also go down, so these are also from Garmin mostly, and not mostly, but these are from Garmin, but I basically have these 2 data sources which I can select. And then a symptom I track, swollen spots on fingers. I don't know exactly why they swell sometimes, but they seem to swell. So I track it in there, and then I can see basically the correlation with different foods or also behaviors I track. We can now go into one of these correlations. Let's pick the one with body fat. So does having omega-3s affect my body fat on a weekly basis? This is now the automatic calculation that was selected, since body fat probably seems to go up and down, at least for me also. This is something I can also say. It seems to go up, at least the measurement of it seems to go up and down quite a bit, depending on how well hydrated I am, depending on the last meal, depending on the length of sleep. So we can see now that the data range was selected automatically, which now means that usually it takes the dataset and then divides it into a threshold it seems to find useful. So in this case, it selected a threshold of 6 a week. So on 6 days a week, I took, in this case, for the first portion of the dataset, the omega-3s, and the other one was 7 days a week. And then it's basically has now the resulting body fat data, and it says that the median value for the body fat data on the 0 to 6 days a week was 16.1%, and on 7 days a week it was 14.9%. We can also see the individual entries it uses, and we can see them on this graph. So the p-value which was used and which seems to be always used is a p of smaller than 0.005. It also ranks the statistical significance as, in this case, high. I can also then decide to track this, so I can say, okay, I want to have this in my tracked correlations.